My name is Thomas Healy. I'm a professor at Seton Hall Law School. The title of the book is Soul City: Race, Equality, and the Lost Dream of an American Utopia. The book chronicles an attempt by civil rights leaders and activists to build a predominantly Black city in rural North Carolina during the 1970s. It was an effort that grew out of the civil rights movement, that was designed to provide economic equality and economic independence for Black Americans. And it was designed to reverse the migration of impoverished Blacks from the rural areas of the South to the cities of the North. The point of the book really is to show how civil rights leaders went about trying to tackle the problem of economic inequality, and how the idea of building a city from scratch in which Black people would control the levers of power and capital and opportunity, how this was one attempt to achieve the goal of economic equality, to fight economic inequality. And this is an effort that was supported by the federal government, was supported by a number of prominent universities, was even supported by the leadership of the state of North Carolina. And in spite of all of that, it ultimately didn't succeed. After about 10 years, the city was shut down. And so part of the point of the book is to understand why that happened, why a project that had such promise, why it ultimately failed. And so I try to demonstrate the variety of political and social forces that stood in the way of Soul City, and that still stand in the way of achieving economic equality. We're still dealing with the exact same issues of inequality that we were in 1969 when Floyd McKissick announced plans for Soul City. And so although the civil rights movement had a lot of successes in terms of breaking down legal barriers and ending segregation and opening up access to housing and jobs and voting, there's still a lot that was not accomplished, that was left unfinished. And Soul City was an attempt to try to finish the work of the civil rights movement. And that's work that still remains to be done today. My book is really an attempt to show that the struggle continued, that the dream had not been achieved. And as I describe it in the book, Soul City was one man's attempt to continue the dream, and not just one man really, but a whole group of people who worked together with Floyd McKissick to fully realize the dream of equality and of freedom. As McKissick recognized, you can't have freedom unless you are in control of your own destiny. And in the United States, in a capitalist society, the way one has control of one's own destiny is to have access to capital. It's really in my view, a kind of understudied and underappreciated part of the civil rights struggle. The glory years are 1955 to 1968, but McKissick knew, and Dr. King knew, everyone who was involved in the struggle knew that it wasn't over. And so I'm trying to extend the story to understand, what the next phase of the civil rights struggle was and what the obstacles were. And this was really, the civil rights struggle was difficult from the beginning, but this was, I think, the most difficult part. It's one thing to gain access to a lunch counter, but as both McKissick and Dr. King said, what good is being able to eat at a lunch counter if you don't have the money to buy a burger? And these are much sort of more intractable structural problems that McKissick was trying to deal with in Soul City.